Welcome back to another video. In this video, we'll be discussing about a pretty new topic to you guys. It's going to be chemical equations. Basically, chemistry is all about, we try to react something and we're doing always we're doing reactions, right? So far, what you guys have not done reactions, but from now onwards, we can definitely focus on the uh, on reactions, on writing reactions. Okay, so when we say chemical equations, we will be basically speaking about how chemical reactions exist and how do we represent those chemical reactions. Okay, so our learning objectives will be, as I said, discussing what a chemical equation is, representation of a chemical equation, and also we will look into the chemical word equations. Okay, okay. So what's a chemical equation? Now, when we talk about chemical reactions, okay, now chemical reaction, when we speak about chemical reaction, speaking about it is not just enough, right? So we need to represent it in a very meaningful way. For example, not only in chemical reactions, but also in subjects like mathematics, you would definitely show that, for example, if you're trying to speak about, say, addition, then there's a particular way, right? So you write one number, you write another number, you show the addition sign, and then you get an answer. Okay, so similar in this, we have a way in which we represent these reactions. Okay, and there are certain terms that you need to know. Okay, so basically, first of all, now in a chemical reaction is represented by a chemical equation. Okay, in a chemical equation, uh, there are two things that you need to be mindful of. Okay, first thing is there is something called the reactants. So basically, the reactants are the ones that are taking part in the reaction. So basically, those two substances or elements will react with each other and produce another product. So that another product or the new result is called products. Okay, but if I get an example like this, say in mathematics also, okay, say you're adding two numbers. So in terms of mathematics, the numbers that you take to add will be the reactants, and the answer you get from that addition is the product. Okay, so simple as that. There are a few similarities in between them, and also there are differences in them. Okay, between that mathematical representation and the chemical reaction representation. So for example, if you take a look at this, okay, now in mathematics we use a equal sign, but here we don't use equal sign, we use a arrow to indicate. There's a reason why we use this arrow to indicate, because in mathematics, when we use the equal sign, we tend to tell that the left hand side is equal to the right hand side. But in this case, in chemical reactions, that's not the case, because uh, for example, the reactants are not same as the products. Okay, so basically when the reactants react with each other, they produce an entirely different product which has different properties, different chemical properties and different physical properties in comparison to the reactants. So that's why we are using these uh, arrow. So so this arrow basically means, as I say, the arrow head points to from left side to the right side. So basically, we know that the reaction goes from the left hand side to the right hand side. Okay. So if the arrow pointed the other way, that means it goes the other way around. So in that case, reactants will be on the right hand side and the product will be on the left hand side. Okay. So that's what it means by this arrow representation. So keep in mind what reactants are, what products are, and what does this arrow represent. Okay, so basically if they ask you a question, what are the main components of a chemical reaction, then you would have easily said that reactant is a must, products is a must, and then to show direction of the reaction, we definitely need a arrow sign. Okay. Now, chemical reactions can be represented in two ways. Okay. The first example here that I have given, this is a symbolic representation of a chemical reaction. Okay, so basically we are using the symbols of the elements of the periodic table, and we are writing an equation. The other form of it is, which is the basic form, is the word equation, where we don't write the symbols, but we write the name of the element. Okay, so but the most used one, frequently used one, for convenience also, we always use the uh, symbol equation, but for the time being we will look into this word equation in this video. Okay, now the thing with uh, symbol equation is that you need to be very familiar with the elements in the periodic table. So for example, you need to know, now for example here you have Na, so you need to know what Na corresponds to, what's the element. So the element is sodium. So what you could do is, actually you could just go through until the first 20 elements of the periodic table, then you would be fine. Okay, so keep that also in mind. So those are the two types of reactions, two types of representations: word representation and the symbolic representation. The other thing that you can see is there's another difference. This difference is, now for example, see, now in the above two examples you will have full arrows pointing to one direction, but in my third example I have an equation which has two arrows, two half arrows point into opposite directions. So in that case, that means there is a small change. Okay, keep this in mind. This will be very useful in your future studies. So if you take the forward reaction, okay, in this case, if you take the forward reaction, okay, the one that goes from left to right, if you take that, you would see that the reactants are on the left hand side and the products on the right hand side. But if you take the other arrow, the bottom arrow, okay, if you take the bottom arrow, it move, the reaction goes from the right hand side to the left hand side. So then the reactants are on the right hand side and the products are on the left hand side. So that's why I told you that unlike mathematics, this arrow plays a huge role in this. Okay, the direction at which the arrow points is a very important thing. Okay, and I told you also that the reactants should not always be on one side, like it should not always be on the left hand side, it could be on the right hand. This is an instance where you can see that also. Okay, so always, so the arrow in chemical equations play a very important role. Okay, so it is very important to correctly show the direction, or clearly point the direction of the arrow. All right. All right, that's the basics that we need to know. And then now we come to a very important uh, uh, part in this video, which is we will be getting familiar with the periodic table a bit. Why? Because it is very important for us to go on in writing or forming, actually, sensible chemical reactions or equations. Okay, so now in the periodic table, in my previous video we discussed about the periodic table. We discussed the features of the periodic table. We said that periodic table consists of rows and columns. Rows are named as periods and columns are named as groups. So when reactions happen, okay, when we try to form a reaction, it is very important in reacting elements in a specific group. Okay, because not all elements are capable of reacting with each other. Okay, that's the most important thing. Okay, and if you see that in the periodic table is actually divided into mainly, so for your knowledge, they are divided only into two categories, which are metals and non-metals. Okay, now if you see from group 1 to 3, now I mentioned here also, from group 1 to 3, it has all metals. So the elements in group 1, group 2, and group 3 are all metals. So you do not find non-metals in those three groups. Whereas from group 5 to 8, from groups 5, 6, 7, and 8, all of those are non-metals. Okay, so that means groups 5 to 8 contain all non-metals. Then what about group 4? Group 4 contains semi-metals, which that means they have metallic properties. They also have non-metallic properties. So it's like a 50-50 property of metallic or non-metallic. Okay, so it might their properties might vary due to temperature or maybe due to any other outside variable. Okay, so so because of that, we give it a name as semi-metals. All right. So now you will understand why we learned about these metals and non-metals. Now in chemistry, there are possible reactions, there are impossible reactions. Okay. So for example, if someone wants to react a metal, that means an element from group 1 to 3, okay, he wants to react it with a non-metal, which is an element from groups 5 to 8. He's he's capable of reacting them and obtaining the desired product. Similarly, if he wants to react a non-metal element from group 5 to 8 with another non-metal from group 5 to 8, he's still capable of obtaining a desired product. But if he tries to react a metal and a metal element belonging to group 1 to 3, or with an element belonging to group 1 to 3, that is a reaction between a metal and a metal, he is not capable of getting a desired product because no reaction takes place. Why don't these react in this way? And why do some reactions happen? Why some reactions don't happen? That we will learn in the next term when we talk about bonding. But for the time being, this is the thing that you need to keep in mind. The thing you need to keep in mind is there can be reactions between metals and non-metals. There can be reactions between non-metals and non-metals, but metals and metals do not possess any reaction. All right, simple as that. So keep this in mind. Okay, keep this in mind, and keep in mind which group contain metals, which groups contain non-metals. This is very important because questions will be given based on the elements in the periodic table. Okay, so there are small things that you need to keep in mind. So for example, now these are elements. These elements are all, if you see, these are all now for example, these two fall into group 6, these two fall into group 5, and this is a group 7 elements. So all of these are non-metals. Okay, so the reason why I made a table specifically for this is because these have suffixes which are very important to know. Okay, these are suffixes which are very important for us to know. So for example, if you react a metal or a non-metal with oxygen, always you are able to get an oxide. So for example, if you react a sodium with oxygen, you are able to get sodium oxide. Okay, so similarly, if you react a metal or a non-metal, okay, with sulfur, you are able to get a sulfide. So you can get potassium sulfide, magnesium sulfide. So So those things you can get. And then if you react with phosphorus, you are able to get, I don't know, magnesium phosphide, aluminium phosphide. So it ends with these names are very important. Okay, they do not change. Okay, so keep this in mind. Keep this in mind. So when you react with oxygen, you get oxide. You react with the sulfur, you get sulfide. Phosphorus, you get phosphide. Nitrogen, you get nitride. And then group 7, we will only emphasize on the first 4 elements. Okay, the first 4 elements will end as fluoride, chloride, bromide, and iodide. Okay, so keep this in mind. It is very important in writing word equations. Okay, now this is the simple part of this. So basically these oxide, sulfide, phosphide, nitride, and all these 4, we can just write them like this only if they are reacting. For example, if this metal or the non-metal is reacting with one of these, with one oxygen, with one sulfur, with one phosphorus, and so on, then we are just able to write these names. Like I said, sodium oxide, sodium sulfide, sodium phosphide, sodium nitride, like that. But what happens if we try to react them with more than one? For example, if we are reacting carbon with not one oxygen, but if we are reacting it with, let's say we are reacting it with one oxygen, okay? So carbon, when we react with one oxygen, we can either write it as just carbon oxide, or we can write it as carbon monoxide. So mono means one, okay? Mono means one, but it is not very necessary when we to write it. Okay, so for example, when we are reacting say magnesium and oxygen with one oxygen, then we can just say magnesium oxide. We don't need to say magnesium monoxide. But if you even write it, it's not wrong. Okay, but when it comes to two oxygens, so for example, if you're reacting carbon with two oxygens, we when we are reacting with two, then we say it as not just oxide but dioxide, carbon dioxide. So you know carbon dioxide is found in the atmosphere. So carbon dioxide, it has one carbon and two oxygen. So that's why we say carbon dioxide. Similarly, if we react an element with three oxygens, or anything with three, not only oxygen, anything with three, maybe three nitrogens, then we call it as tri. So when sulfur reacts with three oxygens, we are able to not, we can't just write it as sulfur oxide, but we should write it as sulfur trioxide. Okay. Then the last one, if we have four of these elements. So basically, if we are reacting a metal with one of these four times, four of these, then we have to use the word as tetra. So if silicon reacts with fluorochlorines, we are able to get silicon tetrachloride. Okay, so be very mindful of these words, di, tri, and tetra, because these are very important. This one, even if you don't write mono, that's no problem. But in instances like, for example, say carbon monoxide, that is very important. So it would be nice if you, also write it, but it's up to you. It's not very important for you to write that. Okay. So be mindful of these names and how these when they react, how these end with. Okay. Then let's look at some examples, because in this example there are a few things that I want to stress upon. So for example, say we are reacting magnesium and oxygen. See, we are obtaining magnesium oxide. So you see, when we react anything with oxygen, we are able to get an oxide. Product is an oxide. And look at the way we are writing this product. We are always putting the metal in front, because in this reaction, magnesium is the metal, oxygen is the non-metal. So when we are doing this, when we are getting the product, we always write the magnesium first, and then we are writing the non-metal, which is in this case is the oxide. Similar for the next one. In the next one, if you see, we are reacting potassium and chlorine, potassium being the metal, chlorine being the non-metal. We are able to obtain potassium chloride. So same in that product also, metal is first, then only we are writing the non-metal. So chloride, see, very important. So if you wrote here potassium chlorine, that's wrong. Okay, this is a new product that is formed. New product, new compound is formed. If you remember elements and compounds, from an element, a compound is formed. So this is a compound. So be mindful. Okay, you can't write potassium chlorine here. You have to write potassium chloride. Then here we go to sulfur and oxygen. Now here, this is an instance. Okay. Now if you, this I will elaborate more when we are doing symbolic equations. So when sulfur reacts with oxygen, it is unable to form just one oxygen with it. It will always form di or tri oxygens. Okay. There's a reason for that. Then I will teach you what the reason is for that. So when it happens, you are able to get this sulfur dioxide. Why? Because there are two oxygens. So for example, if in a question they give you sulfur dioxide and tell you how many oxygens are there, then you need to know that there are two oxygens. If you say one oxygen, then you're wrong. Okay, so that's why we need to learn this properly, because questions can come in different forms. It does not necessarily need to be to write an equation like this, but they can ask question as I told you. Okay, they can question you sulfur dioxide, how many oxygens are there, and you need to write the correct number of oxygens. Okay, similarly, another question can come: can, when potassium and chlorine, when they react, can a product called potassium chlorine form? No, it can't. The only possible product that can form is potassium chloride, not chlorine. Okay, so these are small things that's very important, and that you will be definitely questioned in your assignments. And then the last one is another example. Okay, so so you can definitely at home, you can definitely practice with different possible reactions. Don't do impossible reactions, like don't react a metal and a metal and stuff like that. So you can definitely practice reacting metals with non-metals, non-metals with non-metals, and then with any metal, any element in that periodic table. Okay, any element in the periodic, you can just react and see whether you get the correct answer. If you want to check your answers, you can definitely forward it to me through WhatsApp. Okay, and again, do not try impossible reactions like metal and a metal, because you will never get an answer. You will never get a product. Okay, there's no reaction. Only product is no reaction. Okay, then there's one more thing that I wanted to uh, talk about, because here also you will get different these names tend to change a bit. See, you have here, this you know already, chloride, but here these names are first time maybe you guys are gonna hear this: sulfate, nitrate, phosphate. So with what do they associate with? We'll talk about it now. So when a metal reacts, now these are acids: hydrochloric acid, sulfuric acid, nitric acid, phosphorus acid. All these acids are very strong acids. Okay, they are very strong acids, especially this sulfuric acid is the strongest acid out of all these three, out of all these four, but all these four are very strong acids. Okay, so metals, when they react with these acids, they form a product. So in the case, say you are reacting a metal with hydrochloric acid, you are able to get a metal chloride. If you react with sulfuric acid, metal sulfate. Nitric acid, you can get metal nitrate, and if you are reacting with phosphorus acid, we are able to get metal phosphate. Okay, so when we say metal, so for example, when we say we are reacting zinc and sulfuric acid, we are able to get zinc sulfate. And for the time being, don't worry about what this hydrogen means. So basically, when a metal reacts with an acid, you're also able to get hydrogen. Okay, keep that also in mind. Just for the time being, remember, when a metal reacts with an acid, you're getting a metal sulfate, or you can call it a salt. It's a salt, and you're able to get hydrogen. Okay, and if you react magnesium with nitric acid, you are able to get magnesium nitrate and hydrogen. So see, here also we are doing the same thing. zinc in this case is the metal. This is like the non-metal. We are writing the metal first and the part of the acid later. Okay, similar here, metal first and the part of the acid later. So always remember, metal will be only written first, no matter whatever comes. Maybe it's oxide, maybe it's a phosphide, not anything, but you write the metal first. Here also same. For phosphate. Now here they say phosphoric acid. So phosphorus acid can also be called as phosphoric acid. Both are same. Okay, they are not different. They are same, just like, I don't know, like a synonym. Okay, that's one thing. The other thing that I wanted to say in this is, do not confuse yourself with now, for example, when a metal reacts with sulfuric acid, you are able to get a sulfate. Okay, if you react with nitric acid, you get nitrate and stuff like that. So don't confuse it with the sulfide. So when a metal or a non-metal reacts with sulfur, it forms sulfide. So sulfide and sulfate are different. Okay, nitride and a nitrate is different. Phosphide and a phosphate is different. Okay, you will clearly see this when we do symbolic equations. But here, keep that in mind. Keep that in mind that that when a metal reacts with sulfuric acid, it forms a sulfate. When it reacts with nitric acid, it forms a nitrate. If it reacts with phosphorus acid, it will form a phosphate. If a metal reacts with sulfur, it forms a sulfide. With a nitrate, it forms a nitride, and with phosphate, it will form a phosphide. So those are small things that have small variations, and that might confuse you, but don't let those words confuse you. You just need to know the basis of these reactions and what these names. Be specific. When you're doing this, be crystal clear. Okay, so from that we come to the end of this video. So this video we definitely did something very important. We discussed about chemical equations, what a chemical equation is, what does a chemical equation consist of. It definitely consists of a reactant, a product, and definitely the arrow plays a very huge role in chemical equations. And then we discussed about the word equations. Okay, we discussed about the word equations, and then we also, prior to the word equation, we discussed about what are the possible equations, right? So metal and a non-metal can react to form something. Non-metal and non-metal can react, but a metal and a metal does not react. Whoever wants to react a metal and a metal is unable to get a product. Okay, so we did that, and then we did about these word equations, and we learned about new terms like sulfate, nitrate, phosphate, sulfide, nitrite, phosphide. So all of these, be very mindful of them and pay keen attention to all of these details that we have discussed in this video. So practice, do reactions with different elements, and see whether you are able to get the desired product. And if you have any doubts, yes, please forward it to me through WhatsApp. Thank you, and I'll meet you in another video. Thank you.